How do you feel about HUD's English only policy? What about the settlement? What mistakes are agents making still, even to this day? And how can you protect your commissions? Today, I spoke with Darryl Davis of Darryl Davis Real Estate Coaching, and he did not hold back on how he feels about CCP, about price fixing, and about HUD's new policy. So enjoy the podcast. Darryl, thanks for coming on the Real Trending podcast.
I am so excited, Tracy, to be here with you. And before we get into the stuff, just thank you for everything you and the team does to help the agents navigate this industry. So, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And one of your recent articles made a big splash on HousingWire. It was one of our top articles. We had reported that HUD has an English only policy and that they're eliminating all the forms. And I think they had 222 other languages. You wrote an op-ed about that. So talk to me about what you think real estate professionals need to know about this policy, and then we'll go from there.
Well, unfortunately, it's uh, uh, well, yeah. Let's just go cut to what they need to know as opposed to what they can do, because
Mhm.
it's a bit of a challenging what to do. But I posted the article actually on social media. I forwarded it, and of course, I got a comment from somebody saying, "Isn't it? Isn't it a good thing that we all, speak English?" And so that started a political commentary on the thing. So for people that don't know, this what's currently happening on HUD is they have a spin on this where they're saying one nation, one language. And so, therefore, all of the languages that they have on their website or on their materials is going to just be in English.
Mhm.
And quite frankly, that's a problem for our industry. And it's a problem for citizens. It's a problem for people. Listen, I need to say this. I personally get very frustrated if I communicate with somebody and I don't understand them because English is not their primary language. But I usually joke about, like, when you speak two languages, you're bilingual,
Mhm.
but when you speak one language, you're American. So it seems as though we're shutting down people when we're saying, "Hey, listen, we all have to speak the same language," and to me, that's counterproductive of what America is. We're a melting pot. The American dream, you know, to buy a home or to even become a citizen, it's not a requirement to speak English. Now, you have to be able to hold your own in the interview process, but that's not a pillar in becoming a United States citizen. And so here you have people who have challenges with the English language. They want to buy real estate and they have rights. Even just tenants have rights, landlords have rights. And so these folks that are struggling with the English language, we just made it harder for them to advocate for themselves in the space of real estate. And to me, it is totally anti fair housing. This whole policy, I don't understand it. So anyway,
So you did write about what realtors who don't agree with the policy do. I think there are, a lot that do, a lot that don't. So,
hmm
I think the argument that I've heard on the one side is that other countries usually have a language requirement. We don't. They must speak the language of that. So why is the US different? I think you brought that up. We're a melting pot. On the other side, I'm in Florida. There, if we don't have Spanish language forms, you're gonna miss
right.
a lot of people in Florida. So there are both sides to the argument. So for those who don't agree with this policy and want to do something, what do you suggest they do?
Well, I think one of the things that they can do is advocate for, from a political standpoint,
Mhm.
vote. um, I've been thinking about the past several years on how divided we've become, right? That there's Republicans hate Democrats, Democrats hate Republicans, independents, they probably just dislike both. So, and I think what we need to do is get away from that and focus on the results. Looking at the current Congress or House of Representatives and the senators and look at the results, not their party. are they doing what you want them to do for you? When it comes to fair housing and real estate industry, this policy here, I'm not okay with, and I'll vote accordingly because of that. So that's one of the things you could do. No, the second thing is agents themselves in the field, like in Florida,
Mhm.
they have to, advocate for these people. If HUD's removing these different languages, then I think it falls to us as the industry to be the leaders in this, and take that on. I'll tell you, Tracy, for example, in our coaching program with our members, we have over 2,000 forms, flyers, checklists that they use in their real estate practice. Well, all of our forms have two languages, English and Spanish.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things that we're doing to help our coaching members. But each individual agent, they should do that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a policy with this administration, and you don't know what the next administration is going to do, or that. And I don't
Mhm.
want to make this political, but there are things that agents can do to serve their clients regardless. So, what are some of those things that they can do, whether it's getting an interpreter to help, or it's doing their own forms like you said you did.
Yeah, so doing the forms is one. I will tell you a tech thing here actually
Mhm.
is one of the things that I've done is I have, because along with my coaching business and everything else, I also am actively investing in real
Mhm.
estate and fixing properties or building, and some of my crew are Spanish speaking. So what I've done is I have a headset.
Mhm.
It's called Time. I have to look it up.
Okay.
It's a headset that actually will translate in from Spanish to English,
Mhm.
and it looks like an iPod. So, and actually, this device, an agent could have one for themselves and one for the client. So when they're speaking in English, they'll hear Spanish
Mhm.
or Chinese or Mandarin, I should say, or any other
Yeah.
language, and vice versa. So that's another thing that they can do is look at the tech ability. Um, we said about voting. We said about translating their own forms and
Mhm.
flyers and stuff in whatever language that they are focused on.
Yeah, definitely. So we're gonna move off that topic and talk
Sure.
about protecting commissions. You had done a couple of articles for us, and one of the recent ones was protecting brokerage commissions. So, what are those practical steps that brokerages and agents can take? You say protect their commissions, but we also want to be fair and negotiate those commissions, obviously.
Yeah.
So what do you see as the biggest things that they can do?
Yeah, Tracy. One of the things that got confusing in the NAR settlement for the real estate industry is that this whole notion about and actually you did it just now in your
Yeah,
question as a kind of legal disclaimer,
yeah,
which is good,
yeah.
which is you did exactly what you're supposed to do. That all commissions are negotiable,
Hmm.
and so I'd like to address that right
Yeah.
now. That can you imagine a real estate professional sitting across from a homeowner and say, Mr. and Mrs. Hanahana, my now as far as my fee is blank, but I don't mean it. It's negotiable. So let's talk about it. I mean, for goodness sakes, that's not what that settlement meant. So let me just school everybody on the settlement. The reason why we were sued is because one of the reasons is the price fixing.
Hmm.
But another argument that the plaintiff had was that homeowners all thought that commissions were set by the state. They were set in stone.
Hmm.
So what we did in the settlement is we agreed to, on the forms, every form, say all commissions are negotiable. Now, if I were in that courthouse, I would have argued that's not what we're going to put. That's not what we should put. To accomplish plaintiff what you want, we should put on there all fees are not set by law, but by the individual agent. Period. That's more accurate, right? So now, even though we put that on the form, it doesn't mean that an agent should go on a listing appointment and say, or with a buyer, say, my fee is blank, but I really don't mean it. Let's
Hmm.
negotiate. So it is totally legal acceptable for an agent to say, that my fee, what I charge, is non-negotiable. This is what I'm worth.
Mhm.
When I hire an attorney, they tell me what their fee is worth. Now I can ask them, can you give me a break? Can you give me a discount? I'm giving you a lot of business. Bah, bah,
Mhm.
bah, bah. That's fine. But from the salesperson's standpoint, they should not encourage to negotiate down their own fee if somebody asks. So the form, we accomplish what we said with the settlement. We put it on the form,
Mhm.
fine. But when an agent goes on a listing appointment, they should be clear. They don't have to negotiate. That's number one. Number two is what's happened, Tracy, is because now that we've broken up the fee, there's the listing side and there's the selling side, that a lot of agents on the selling side are having a problem with having those heart to heart conversations with the buyers about their fee because they never had to do it before.
Mhm.
Now, when they should look at it, it's a real blessing. You see, before the settlement, the listing agent was telling the agent, this is what you're worth because this is what I'm going to pay you. So now buyer agents have the ability to design their own salary and income. But when they're not clear about what they're worth, then they're going to be weak in how they communicate their value. They're going to be weak in getting the fee that they want. So there was one transaction where an agent didn't even do that with a buyer. They showed a house, the buyer, they broke this, they didn't have the buyer sign anything, and they went to contract, and this agent's not entitled to any fee because they didn't negotiate or present it anyway. So I think an agent being clear about what they're worth and say, what's my business model? What is the fee when I'm working with buyers? What's the fee that I want to charge? And when I'm working with sellers, what's the fee that I'm going to ask for? So they need to have that clarity.
And so what are some of the problems that you're seeing, or what are some of the mistakes or miscommunication that you're seeing out there, and how are you training the agents who come to you or who work with you on presenting their value?
Yeah. So, I well, first of all, when it comes to talking to a buyer about your fee or even on a listing appointment,
Mhm.
the rule of thumb is you never discuss what your fee is until you've established value. Now, most clients, buyers or sellers,
Mhm.
they want to get right to the fee. How much do you charge? And an agent can't get sucked into that. Um, One of the ways that I teach it is if they ask right out the gate before you've had a chance to establish your value, say, well, Mr. and Mrs. Hanahana, the fee that I charge is based on my client's goals and objectives. Somebody that needs to sell quickly versus somebody who has the time. The longer it takes for us to market something, I'm going to be spending more money. So therefore, that impacts the fee. But to answer your question, my fee is between bada bing and a baba,
Mhm.
but I think we're rushing ahead here. I usually don't talk specific
Yeah.
until somebody's already decided they want to hire me, and I don't think we're there yet. So let me share with you. Here's how I do what I do, and then we can look at what's the best fee for you, but given your situation. And then you go into your conversation about I'll do this for you, I do this, da da da. Same thing with a buyer. When you sit down with a buyer, most buyers are not going to ask that right out the gate.
Mhm.
The buyers are still learning about this new policy. So a buyer usually will come to you, and all you have to do is have a planned buyer agency conversation where
Mhm.
you talk about this is what I'm going to do for you as your buyer's agent, and the list and the agent needs to get clear about what that is. Either write out their own. What do I do when I'm working with buyers? Maybe your company has some. We have that for our coaching members as well. Here's all the things I do for you as a buyer's agent, and list it out. So that way, it establishes that value. So communicating upfront before you talk about the actual fee is crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's what do you charge and how much is my house worth?
Yeah, exactly. Those are the
Yeah.
well, and that's very good.
Mhm.
And here's what I tell agents when a homeowner says, and you can tell a
Mhm.
homeowner's focused on what do you charge and how much is my house
Yeah.
worth. That should be a red flag for the agent because the homeowner is listening through the wrong thing. They're listening through, I'm looking for the cheapest agent that tells me the highest price. And what we need to say to a homeowner in the very beginning, if that's the red flag that you've got to stop the conversation and say, wait a second, Mr. Miss Hanna, let me ask you a question. If you were going in for brain surgery, would you look for the cheapest surgeon or the best skilled? See, when it comes to your house, the agent is not selling your house. That's a
Mhm.
misnomer, Mr. and Mrs. Hanahana. When you hire a listing agent, their job is not to sell your house. The job of the listing agent is to market your house.
Yeah.
See, how you get the highest possible price is you want as many buyers wanting the property. More buyers drives the price. How do you get the more buyers? Is through marketing. So the more marketing you do, the more buyers you get, which means a higher price. So you need to look at an agent not based on the price that they tell you, because they're not the ones buying it, nor the fee that they charge, because you get what you get to pay for. You need to ask yourself this one question: does this agent have the skill and ability to be a good marketer to bring the most amount of buyers through my house? That's it.
Yeah.
And that's what a agent should communicate right up front in the listing appointment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about clear cooperation. Tell me, we're going to hit every hot button topic today. So,
This is great.
yeah.
I've got my bulletproof vest on. I'm ready.
Yeah,
Go.
although it hasn't been, I haven't heard much about it. We had a big push about clear cooperation, and all of a sudden it's disappeared from the news pages. But what is your perspective? And do you feel like it's helped or hurt agents and consumers?
Well, I'll tell you, the clear cooperation policy is a sleeping time bomb right now. The reason why we're not hearing so much about it, Tracy, as you know, is that I think every real estate publication was every other article is about clear
Hmm.
cooperation, and I think I wrote half of them. So here's my thought. There's two camps on this clear cooperation policy. There's the pro
Right.
CCP and the anti CCP. I sit in the anti CCP camp, and here's why. I'm not anti MLS.
Hmm.
I'm not anti realtor. I think every agent should be a realtor, and I think every homeowner should put their house on MLS.
Hmm.
But not every homeowner wants to. Some homeowners, some homeowners, for whatever reason, Tracy, let me. Here's the problem I have with the CCP, and I'm going to get a little upset. The problem that I have with the CCP is this: is let's say, Tracy, that you're an agent, and I want to sell my house, and I say, you know what, Tracy, I don't want a lot of these Mama Malouk agents coming through my house. I like you. I trust you. I only want you to show and sell my house. Now, I know if we don't put it on the MLS, we may have fewer showings. I
Hmm.
understand that. But my peace of mind, there's some agents in this town I don't like. I don't want to even see them in my house. So that's pre CCP, that a homeowner can have this kind of conversation. Now, again, I'm pro NAR,
Hmm.
but this CCP, what right does NAR have to tell an agent how to run their business? What right does NAR have to tell a homeowner how to sell their house? That's the problem I have. They have no right to be at the kitchen table dictating to a home, because that's what it does. Listen, Mr. and Mrs. Hanna, if you want to put your house on the MLS, or if you want to sell your house, if you decide to hire Tracy because she's a realtor, oh, no, no, you have to share with the rest of the realtors. That's so anti. I can't. It's so anti. What's the law?
Yeah.
Antitrust.
Yeah.
Just got a brain freeze there. Anti. That's so to me, Tracy. This is going to be the next shoe to drop, the next lawsuit that our industry is going to have to deal with. And by the way, I keep something in mind. The CCP just came around 6 years ago.
Mhm.
Now, I've been in this business 35 years. I've been training nationwide. I didn't hear that there was some major problem, except with maybe a company in California where I think this CCP actually came from,
Mhm.
because it was dealing with one company that was starting to hoard listings. Now, I'm going to say something about that as well. Well, so if a real estate company, let's say a real estate company, there was no CCP, and they start telling all the homeowners, hey, listen, you know what? It's better to keep it exclusive. Don't put it out there because we're going to test the market, or whatever
Mhm.
spin that company does. If they're hurting the homeowner, that they're going to have to deal with a class action lawsuit themselves. Let the market manage that. NAR should not be managing that closely to a homeowner. So, and because I'm when I was an agent and still teach, I prefer my students to be listing agents,
Mhm.
not to not work with buyers, but that's the majority of the business comes from listings. If I were listing and selling again and I was a realtor member, I would not, just like Compass or Howard Hanna, there's
Mhm.
companies that are not participating with CCP. I would not be, because it's not right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So, what do you think is the biggest threat to the industry today?
um, I I think from I really think that NAR inserting itself too much into being like some kind of law firm for realtors, telling agents how to run their business, penalizing the agents the way they do if they break the rules that NAR has. Again, I'm pro I'm pro NAR, or I'm pro realtor, but I'm
Mhm.
not pro some of the policies that has gotten worse over the years. I looked into this, Tracy. I looked at other associations, bar
Mhm.
association, medical association, etc., and none of them does what NAR does, where they're actually implying, telling agents how to run their business. That's where they cross the line. An association is supposed to help its members improve and give suggestions, and it's a platform to network, etc., etc. But none of them that I found fines their agents thousands of dollars for breaking rules that they set in place.
Mhm.
NAR doesn't manage licenses. That's to each individual state. The state dictates how an agent is to perform with the civilian. And so somehow over the years, NAR has inserted itself like some kind of legal identity that's in charge of how agents should act and behave and run their business. Here's the forms. There's another lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Having all of us using the same forms. That's not okay either. So anyway, I think that's the biggest threat. I think the biggest threat is NAR overstepping its bounds.
Yeah, I mean, I personally never agreed with the hate speech rule. Not that I think hate speech is good, but I felt like it should not have been policed by NAR. It should have been policed by the brokerages and the managers and
Exactly,
that.
exactly.
Mhm.
And again, the states, this,
Yeah.
what's interesting, Tracy, this is where I really learned this is, we have thousands of coaching members, and every Monday I do a coaching call with them. And one of the Monday calls, um, the power agents were saying, well, this is the new law, for example. And I'm like, no, man, that's not a law. It's a rule. Like
Mhm.
there's such a confusion when NAR says, here's a new rule.
Mhm.
Agents think that that's fair house. That's license law. And it's gotten really muddy in that regard.
Yeah.
And it's made agents and let me tell you why I think this is a threat is because agents are already the majority are insecure about their life period. They've got bills, they've got family, they're juggling. This is a hard profession, and the average agent makes $50,000 a year. Over
Mhm.
70% didn't even sell one house last year. So it's a tough business. So what agents need to succeed is confidence, to be confident in who they are, in their industry, what value they bring. I mean, don't, keep in mind, we got buyers and sellers that don't think that we're the cream of the crop.
Mhm.
We're already fighting against the perception that real estate agents are not professional,
Mhm.
that they're salespeople looking for a dollar. So now when you have NAR throwing and creating more confusion because of more rules and more policies, that shakes the confidence that agents need, because they're afraid to say anything at this point because they're afraid they're going to be dragged into a lawsuit. So that's why I think this is the biggest threat, is because we're not helping agents.
Mhm.
We're hurting them. We're confusing them. We're overwhelming them. We're creating lawsuits after lawsuits, for gosh sakes. Get out of the kitchen table and focus on just what an association should be, and that's just helping nurture people, but not giving policies left and right.
So, you talked to, obviously, you know, a ton of agents and brokers. Where do you see the most opportunity today? And are you seeing any maybe industry shifts or trends that you're getting a lot of questions about or hearing about a lot?
Yeah, so we're definitely seeing it move from a hot seller's market
Mhm.
to a buyer's market. Now, not all markets are experiencing that.
Yeah.
Some have experienced it all tremendously,
Mhm.
especially Texas or Florida, because of climate change and the like of that. So, so that's where I see the markets going. Is finally going to a buyer's market. And I say finally because for so many years now, even before the pandemic, that I'd have to look at the dates, but we've been at least a seller's market for 7 years.
Mhm.
And so anybody that's gotten licensed in the past 7 years, they really don't know how to list and sell in the current market that we're either in or headed to, depending on the state that you're in. So I think the opportunity there is for agents to, here's what I think is good. One of the analogies that I use is about a shoe store.
Mhm.
If an agent was going to not do real estate and sell something else, if they sold shoes, well, what you would do is get a store, you get the rack, you get the shoes, and then you promote your shoe store. Buyers come, they buy your shoes. Now, when they buy your shoes, what do? You restock your shelves, because if all your shoes sell and you don't have anything on the shelves, you've got an empty store. You got no business. That's the inventory of a shoe store, is shoes. Our inventory is our houses.
Mhm.
And so one of the problems that we had for the past 7 years is that we would get a pair of shoes on the rack and then it would go out the door right away. So now we got to get another pair. So mostly the shoe store has been thin and empty.
Mhm.
So the good thing here is if listings are taking longer to sell, and they're not selling and they're accumulating more. Well, that's a healthy market because now we have inventory, we
Mhm.
have shoes. And so, what agents need to do and brokerages need to do is they need to reshape their business model when it comes to cash flow, because the inventory generates cash flow.
Mhm.
And so the timing is going to be different. Before, if you needed to pay your mortgage, well, if you got a listing today, it probably would go in a contract by next week and it'd be closed within 30 days. That's so now you have to think, well, if you got one listing, you may not see the cash on that for a good 90 days or so. So that's not bad.
Mhm.
That's actually good, because that house on the shelf for that 90 days will generate more business if you know how to market and you know how to run a real estate business. So this is a great opportunity, but people need to shift and adapt because of it.
Any final thoughts?
Well, I hope I didn't offend anybody in our short conversation here about my opinions on things, but I will say this. Here's the last thing that we'll leave people with is that to, real estate is the best profession that people can be in. And the reason why is because everything evolves around real estate. When you think about it, right now you're sitting in a piece of real estate as I am. And when I'm done at the day, I'm going to get in my car and drive on real estate to my home, which is real estate. The White House is on a piece of real estate. There are wars over real estate. Planet Earth is a piece of real estate in the universe. Real estate touches everything and everybody, and agents are in that business. And what agents do is not just list and sell. What they do is they help people get to their next level in life. And I have always said that I believe real estate agents, most of them, who they are is committed to helping and make a difference in people's lives. They've chosen real estate as the profession to express that commitment.
Mhm.
And so I think with all of the noise, whether it's political, Democrats, Republicans, CCP, fair housing, and the like, we have to remember that who we are is helping human beings and we're making a difference in their lives. And let's keep that up front. Yeah. So that's it.
Great message. Thank you, Darryl,
All
for
right. Good.
joining Real Trending. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.